What's up, everybody? I'm your boy Retro Bliss, and today we're going to take a look at the Atari single-player USB arcade fight stick from Micro Center. This fight stick came out in late 2021 at $199. I wanted to get one, but I thought it was a little pricey at the time. Micro Center recently discounted it, so I went ahead and pulled the trigger. I already had the Atari Ultimate Fight Stick with trackball, and it's a great quality fight stick, and hoped that this single player stick would be just as nice. And it is. It has a nice weight to it, which is really nice at times depending on the game that you're playing. You don't want it moving around while you're playing a game. It also has the original Atari 2600 look to it, with the wood grain finish and the classic Atari grill decal on the front. It includes a nice 8-way arcade stick, 8 top action buttons, start and select buttons, 2 volcano style buttons, 2 side action buttons, a spinner, and a trackball. The buttons have a nice feel to them. They spring back nicely and are very responsive. The actual arcade stick also snaps back to the center very nicely. The trackball itself is smooth and the spinner is fast and fluid. Along with the arcade stick, you also get a USB cable, an instruction manual, and an Allen head driver and screws. The manual doesn't say what this is for, but I'm pretty sure it's for your spinner should it ever need to be tightened. I have seen a few videos featuring this stick, but for some reason many of the YouTubers reviewing this stick also talk about wanting to switch out the trackball button, spinner, and arcade stick without seeing how well the ones on the fight stick were. Personally, I bought this to play right out of the box. And besides, if you look at the front, there are no bolt heads for the fight stick or the trackball on the top, which is an indication that the modification would be difficult anyway. So let's see how well this stick plays. So my intention for this stick was for playing trackball games on my PC, as well as having a general fight stick for my PC only. However, I will be showing how this stick plays on a PS3. So this is Centipede on a MAME emulator. It was the very first game that I wanted to try out. I'm definitely not disappointed on how the trackball responds during gameplay. It's as smooth as silk, and it makes precision moves when I need it to. Love this fight stick for Centipede. This is Millipede in MAME, and the fight stick plays just as nicely as it did in Centipede. This is Arkanoid, which I haven't played much of, but I wanted to demonstrate the use of the spinner as well as the trackball. Since your control can be done with either the trackball or the spinner, I did find that the trackball will get in the way sometimes while using the spinner. I did the gameplay using the controller at a weird angle for the camera shot, so that might have been the problem. However, here is some gameplay using both the spinner and the trackball for you guys to check out. When I fired up Missile Command, the first thing that I noticed was that the crosshairs didn't travel quickly, meaning that it takes more movement on the trackball to get from one side of the screen to the other. This may be able to be adjusted, however. The game is still playable at the current settings though. I wanted to test this fight stick out on a shooter, and what better shooter to try out than Galaga? Another fun shooter is R-Type. This game does very well with this arcade stick. One of my favorite arcade shooters is Scramble. I'm kind of a button smasher on this one because the missile and the bombs, they shoot separately, so I kind of smash them all together. But I have a lot of fun with this, and it responded well with this controller. And of course I had to try out Pac-Man. The stick is very responsive and does what I ask it to do. And the last game that I decided to check out on MAME was Pinball Action. I wanted to check out the side buttons. They work wonderfully. I was extremely anxious to try out this controller in the Stella Emulator on my PC. As much as an Atari enthusiast as I am, I had never used a trackball in 2600 games. The first game that I decided to try was Centipede. I was a little disappointed that I didn't move as fluid across the screen as I did in MAME for Centipede. It seemed that I moved from section to section across the screen rather than pixel by pixel, so it was a bit choppy. I will say that I still prefer to use a trackball for this game rather than the joystick though. Unlike Centipede, Missile Command gameplay was much smoother. The crosshairs moved flawlessly across the screen. I can't see myself playing this game without a trackball ever again. I truly didn't know what I was missing until now. This is Breakout for the 2600. In this gameplay I'm using the spinner only. It works fine, but it seems a bit jittery to me. I did try this with the trackball and the gameplay did seem somewhat smoother, but I couldn't get across the screen as fast as with the spinner. I had a similar experience with Kaboom for the 2600 using the spinner rather than the trackball. I do think that part of the problem was the angle that I was using during the video. I didn't have the controller sitting right in front of me, it was slightly to my right. This is the Atari 2600 homebrew game Avalanche by Champ Games. The controller worked well with this one. This is Super Breakout for the 2600. I chose a slower paced option and tried it with the trackball only, and the game seemed to play just fine. I think that if you need quick travel from one side of the screen to the other, that you might be better off using the spinner for these types of games. This is the awesome 2600 homebrew port of the arcade game Colony 7. It's like Missile Command and Atlantis got together and had a baby. The trackball works great for this game, and I love using it for these types of games. And of course I had to try Scramble for the 2600. Again, this is a button smasher for me, but the fire button responds very well and the stick controls the ship as it should. You can configure the missiles and the bombs to shoot separately, but I prefer to have them shoot at the same time, so I just left the configuration alone. Finally, I wanted to test out the Ps3 controls. I did try this out on some other games, but I would probably only use this fight stick for actual fighting games like Street Fighter. I did have some trouble getting it to work on some other games. I used Ryu for demonstration purposes since I know his moves the best. The controls did work well, although I did have a little trouble at first because of the angle that I was playing at. This controller is also compatible with the LR MAME 2003 emulator in Retro Pi for your Raspberry Pi. There are instructions in the manual on how to configure the mouse for using the trackball. I didn't do that for this video, however. Well, that wraps it up for my review of the Atari single-player USB fight stick for Micro Center. If you'd like to see more great content from our channel, simply subscribe and turn on your notifications. We do post new videos regularly. I appreciate you guys watching, so with that, have a blessed day and we'll see you on the next one.